Hi guys, welcome. Nice that you join in this live. And essentially, I think most of you know the topic is around self-worthy, self-love, and of course, self-confidence. Yeah, it's a big topic for many people, and it touches on something, especially when we're feeling that disconnect from that love and confidence and worthiness within ourselves. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. So I don't know who actually, and some people here I have not met. So for those who have not met me, just to say a little bit about the work that I do has been around the globe in supporting people, helping people, to reconnect essentially with their heart. Yeah. And I come from I'm in my mid-50s now. So I come from 45 years in this work. And I have a big passion for seeing people to meet themselves in a deeper way. And of course, the world that we live in sometimes is not really conducive to supporting that. Yeah, we get overwhelmed, overstimulated, and then we have a disconnect. And then the moment any part of our structure gets confronted, something starts to hit on that. Am I lovable? Am I worthy? Am I good enough? And when I work with people in different workshops and seminars, doesn't matter what country it's in, synonymously, everybody has that pain body of not feeling good enough. It's a big one. Even these people you see running the countries, everybody has that big pain body of not feeling good enough. And where does it come from? Why do we have it running so strong? And what we do in the name of love is incredible. The compromises and how we can abandon ourselves or become disloyal to ourselves, to our true self, to that, really self-love and self-appreciation and self-recognition and self-value for the other, for love. And, it's painful because, of course, when the other doesn't give it to us one day or just a moment in a fight, it can hit on every sort of pain body that we carry inside about ourselves. Or it comes this way or it goes that way, yeah, and we explode. We implode or explode. Either way, it's touching on that pain, that wound. And, some of you know my work and how I work in this particular around, the head center, the heart center, and the belly center, which represents the body and the somatic experience of something. And what I know, when we are in that, disconnect, we start to feel it somatically, of course, contracted, restricted, held back, shortness of breath, shows up in all sorts of modalities, panic attacks, and, anxiety, fear, disassociations. Where am I? Who am I? And why can I not love this package? Even though I've done years of work or therapy, and here I am again addressing that same wound. And of course, I want to name, for some of you it might be known, and for some of you it's a territory maybe as you enter this work, for some of you new. That pain body is very old. And, we can go into a whole systemic body of work around how old. It can be generational trauma. We can go in that direction, or collective trauma. I want to keep it here with you individually, because otherwise the work gets too, magnified in our heads. And I'd like to ground it in the singular. And the childhood upbringing is really where we can recognize it. No surprise, yeah? We can really see how you only need to, for a moment, close your eyes and for a moment, look at what your environment was like growing up with mother and father, one or the other or both, and how much, you compensated in yourself, or how much you overrode your own boundaries, or how much your boundaries were overridden. Yeah, or how much you felt not seen, not heard, not recognized, or maybe somebody wasn't present, or maybe there was an abuse of some sort, which of course takes it to a whole nother degree. And then you couple that with the sense of, am I enough for mother's love, for father's love? Or did I need to do more, be more in order to get their love and recognition? So, It's no surprise that early on, these adapted behaviors and how we sort of maneuver in order to get love, what we do for love, can be excruciating because we start to believe it's out there. If I get mom's love, dad's love, then I'm okay. And the pain body in that is I need it from outside, and we all carry it on some degree. And there's those who know me or don't know me. I've been in this work 45 years, and you would think, fuck, I would know all of the click, click, click. And I do see it. My awareness is very broadened in this. And still sometimes, ouch, I can feel the wound of that, the little Rupda in there who gets hurt or feels left behind or neglected or rejected. Something that's an old story that I know from my childhood, not, and it's sort of repeating itself. So how do we sort of, meet that place in ourselves without saying, can you love me so I feel better about myself? That's the old adage that we know, and we all know that it doesn't work. Even though some of us still do it today, what we do for other people's approval, and then what we do to ourselves, we compromise ourselves and we compare ourselves, which is even worse. The comparison is such a essence killer. And when I mean essence, like that true part of you that is, unpenetrable by the sort of judgments that we carry about ourselves or the narrative that we have running in ourselves, so that comparison just takes away any kind of joy of I'm good enough. The moment I look at one of you and I go, oh, he's got better this, she's got better that, and I take myself away from myself. And then what am I inevitably doing is I'm putting myself down. And it's very subtle. And there's a very shrewd part, this, inner judge. And some of you who have worked with me before know that the inner judge is a motherfucker and can really be hard on you. And so much so, I give it a name, Bruno, and it's just needed because this part does not go away. In the 45 years, I wish I could find a fucking remote button and just say, basta, I'm so done with listening to you, motherfucker, because it can take away in the most beautiful, intimate moments, you're not enough. And I want to say that's part of why I ended up doing the self-worthy course. Part of why I built that is because that's so excruciating to feel so separate from yourself, so disconnected from that, true self-belief of I am enough. It's painful. And it's even more painful when we start to have strategies on how to get it outside of ourselves. Please, you give it to me, and then I'm okay. It's a trap. Yeah? And of course, even though we know it in cognition, we still play it out very subtly, and how we judge ourselves and or judge another because of that wound, that unresolved place that we have running in us. So how do we somehow, meet this place so that we can somehow come to terms with it or bring some love and kindness to it? And that's ultimately what we all want. Sorry, there's a lot of people still clicking in. Welcome for those that are stepping in, by the way. Thank you. I'm sorry if you've come halfway, but just so you know, this will be online on the Rupda.com so that you can see it again, so that if you've missed any part of it. One of the things, of course, that is really important is to meet that wound, because we have, your typical thing is, I don't want to go there. I don't want to feel the wound of not being enough. I don't want to feel the pain of that. Why would I want to feel that pain? And we numb out to that, whether it's alcohol, drugs, work addiction, porn addiction, whatever it is. We have so many ways to numb out today. And why do you think we're numbing out? Because there is that pain body of, am I really lovable? Such a painful thing that we can really buy into that narrative. And what is that voice that's telling you? Where does that voice come from? So for me, my observation is as I started to explore the pain of this, where does this voice come from? The super ego, how does it come into form? Well, it was very intelligent at the time in helping me grow up in an environment where I felt unsafe. And probably some of you recognize that in your own environment growing up. And it was that voice that kind of protects you and helps you and gets you through challenging times. And when you feel scared, it's when you feel vulnerable, when you're young and little and need someone to be there, but nobody was there. So it had its purpose, this sort of protector. But what it does today is sabotaging you. What it does today is pushing you or being hard on you or making you wrong, or even the narrative can be shaming, self-deprecating, self-loathing. It's horrible what we do to ourselves. And I was having this conversation with somebody. We, in our lifetime, we talk to ourselves more than anyone else on this planet before we leave our body. So what we say to ourselves matters, of course. So that is the starting point, that I started to recognize this voice, whether it's my mother's voice, I was in boarding school, so whether it was my headmaster's voice, it could have been the church's voice, and whatever voice that is that or conditioning that we're taking on unconsciously, that we then do to ourselves. We recreate, I am not enough. Maybe it's, demonstrated and modeled in your upbringing. You see a collapsed father or a collapsed mom, or we see it, we're sentient, we're perceptive as children, And then somehow, we play all sorts of strategies to get that love growing up. And if we do manage to get love by being an achiever or a perfectionist or, the good little girl, the good little boy, it's a rinse and repeat. We keep going with it. And it starts to become who we think we are, this sort of polished self, but it's a disconnect. Love me here. But the wound and the pain body, too painful. I'd rather numb that out. I'd rather become a workaholic. And by the way, I know that one very well. I'd rather not feel that pain. So one of the first things I say to people is to feel. And not everyone's favorite cup of tea. If we have to feel that pain, for some people it's like, why? Well, part of what happens when we start to feel is we start to go, okay, wow, just to meet that wounded part in us is often it's just that little child self, Freudian, the whole Freud work is around meeting that part in ourselves and being able to hold it, whether it's the fearful part in ourselves, or the scared part or the vulnerable part, or that part where it starts to go into disbeliefs or terror, it can go into all sorts of isolations and disconnects, and to be able to hold that part in themselves, or to at least feel it. If you can't hold it, to at least feel, it feels painful. It feels painful that I am now in my mid-50s, and let's say I'm sitting in this big pain body of not feeling good enough. That feels painful. And instead of trying to get it from you, one of you guys, how about I see if I can meet that part in myself? So this inner exploration is really essential, to know thyself, to meet myself. And of course, it takes time, and it takes me creating that time and space. So one of the things I tell people to do is to make it really like a ritual for themselves. Even if it's just on a Sunday, on a weekend, where you really set some time for yourself and to meet that wound, especially if you have particularly around not feeling lovable or good enough. Then take that time. And then what I would suggest in that, and this is what I did in my exploration, is what are some of the top things where I feel I lack in myself, where I disconnect, where I feel like I'm shit, I'm not good enough, and the narrative that I tell myself, oh, you're never going to be this or that, or you're never going to be like them or them, and on and it goes. And I have that on one side of the paper, and then on the other side of the paper, and sometimes I do this with coaching with people, by the way, is I have, what can I recognize in myself right now, in this time of my life, that I can really appreciate and value. And we all have something there. We all have contributed something. We've all, can see something that we offer, whether it's outward or inward, or something that we appreciate, whether it's my big heart, my ability to make people laugh, or, my ability to hug and hold someone or be there for someone, So we all have qualities that we can recognize. And these two parts exist within us, of course. And the wounds on this side is, I can't say, and I know this is delicate for some people, but I've been in this work for so long. I can't say that everything just disappears. I want to be honest, guys. Yeah, because I've been with thousands of people, hundreds of workshops, and I had, does the story evaporate, disappear? Do we become enlightened, all one and gone? And I can't say that. I can't say hand on heart and say that, yeah, that's what's going to happen. What I can say is that when we start to bring awareness to something, we create choice. And that exploration of the feeling, really important to feel this, yeah, and to recognize it and bring awareness to it and understand it and meet it, will allow you to slowly, slowly, slowly learn how to soothe it, how to hold it, how to resource yourself in it. So that's the part I want you guys to also really familiarize yourself with, because resourcing is such a big part of what we do in our inner homework. I want you to hold me when I feel wounded. It's nice, it's great. It's great. We all need support and friendships. It's great. But can I also have inner support? Can I hold myself? And what does that give you when you can slowly discover your own inner resources? And I want to talk a little bit about what resourcing I mean. Yeah. That gives you a sense of groundedness. That gives you a sense of solidity. That gives you a sense of, I've got my own back. I'm here for myself. I'm present. I have the ability to, be balanced in the chaos of my shakiness. I have the ability to hold myself when I get scared. And this takes practice, guys. But what it does then do is it starts to update your belief system to seeing, that you can hold and start to have that self-respect and self-love, self-appreciation. Starts to give you more of that other part that nurtures your being. And this part comes when we really give that space and time to holding, that shaky, wounded part. Yeah. I wish I could say, yeah, go out and get it, and chocolate cake will give it to you and you're sorted. But sadly, the chocolate cake only lasts for about 5 minutes. And you guys all know that. So it's really the inner homework. And this is part of why, some people are adverse to wanting to even go there, because it takes some kind of determination and commitment to ourselves, to not abandoning ourselves. To really being there for ourselves. All these amazing things that we say we're going to be for other people, to do it for ourselves. Yeah. To really show up for ourselves. So that's the real step that I want to encourage people to start doing when it comes to moving towards self-love, self-respect. Self-respect also gives you that sort of, dignity to say, hey, no, when you always maybe say yes. And there's quite a few of you that have a hard time saying no. And you know who you are. Yeah. Saying no is not easy sometimes. It gives you the self-respect, gives you that permission to say, hey, we'll set a boundary. Yeah. Self-respect also gives you that, feeling of self-empowerment. So when we start to, explore this work, of course, meeting the wound with feelings, and being able to sort of hold ourselves with our resources, that's when we start to change our sort of narrative. And that's what widens our awareness. And okay, do I want to continue this way, or do I want to do differently? In resourcing, there are many things that everybody could. I just came from the spa and I just received contact, call it a massage, but contact. Wow, what does that give me? Instant. My whole regulatory system goes into relaxation and I can start to feel myself. And many of you probably growing up missed some level of contact and being held, which is what we're wired for, from the moment we're born, to be held, and to feel that holding. And when we can feel that holding, that creates a relaxation in our nervous system. So if there's a missing holding there externally, of course, we want to see if we can create it within ourselves internally. And anytime we want to work something internally, we can start from the external, meaning, can I receive contact? But there's, of course, also honoring our own contact, being with ourselves. Other resources is, of course, meditation, big one. Everybody, I think, knows it by now. I remember talking about meditation 20, 30 years ago, and I got mixed responses. Now it's like, yes, thankfully. Movement, being in the body, connecting to the body. Anything where it helps us to show up for ourselves. That's where we were going to start to find more of our, strength and connection and resourcing. Resourcing ourselves is about bringing ourselves back into connection and regulation, so that we can feel ourselves or sense ourselves. Some of you have a hard time feeling, but at least you can sense. That's also important. Other resources are music and dance and nature. My God, that's such a big one, to walk in nature and to self-reflect, and to open up a dialogue with yourself. And when I say open up a dialogue with yourself, I'm very aware that it's not the, oh, fuck, why didn't you do this today? And you should have, could have, would have, blah, blah, blah. No, we're not talking about that. That inner judge, or as I call Bruno, we're really talking about that. The language of the heart is going to be a completely different language. Like it's going to, it because it's connected to the inner guidance. It's connected to something very loving. And the heart is it's like a different country. It has a different language. And it's going to have a kindness and a gentleness towards you. Oh, how are you right now? Oh, I'm shaky. I'm scared. I feel lost. I feel alone. I feel isolated. Oh, is it okay that we can be here right now? In many ways, this is what I do with myself. I'm self-coaching. I'm self-holding. I'm being there for myself. It's not to say that I don't need others. It's just how to learn how to self-care, self-love, self-accept, self-honor. All of these are leading to that place of self. And when I say self-confidence, it's really a relaxed confidence, as Alma says. It's that real connection to confidence. It's not that compensated, confidence. That's such a beautiful, empowering feeling when we land there, because we've gone through the doorway of pain. We've gone through the doorway of pain where we can really hold ourselves. We've not abandoned ourselves and rejected ourselves, which is what many of us do for love. And so I hope that gives you a little sense of, within half an hour, I said I was going to try to do this in half an hour, but I wanted to see if anyone had any questions, just to open up. And I'm sorry I can't talk with each and every one of you, but there's a hug coming your way. Huh? You can see her.
He's asking which resources do you recommend for connecting to the inner teenager?
To the inner teenager within you. That's great. Some of your wild music, maybe, if you want to connect with your inner teen. I was thinking of a teenager, which is one of my godchildren, but we only need to reflect back of what our teenage life was like. I know mine was quite rebellious, and I was just talking about that before this. I was Rupda the rebel growing up, So to meet that place in myself, and it's actually wild and free. It wants to break out of all constructs. Don't tell me what to do. I want to be wild and free. So I might, explore that with, you know, a wild and free kind of dance, or, you know, really having, you know, some, you know, wilderness adventure or something, you know. So in one way we can kind of tune into that is just closing our eyes and say, what was I like back then? What was that part in me? What did I really need then? You know, how did I want to live or express myself? Yeah. And then to meet that with, now you were an adult, you know, we could say, okay, yeah, I can give it to you. You want to drive a fast car right now? Okay, let's go. By the way, I say this cautiously because if you all jump in a car, speak. But I live in Australia right now. I'm here, and we have bushland, and I can get into a car, and there's certain roads that just go, and I can disappear. So, you know, so we can meet these different places, of course, you know, by tuning into that part in us. Yeah. And I see a hand up. So please go ahead, whoever has the hand up. You have a question? So what is in that moment? So because now we're in the work environment, yeah? And when you talk about being in front with people and being heard, uh, is that what the need is, to be heard? Is that, I'm asking the need because then I can understand a little bit about maybe where you have a tendency to hold back. Is it the need to be heard? Is that what I hear? Did you feel that your contribution in that moment, what you had to say, mattered? Or did you already have a belief that what you wanted to say was not important enough? I'm just trying to understand what the rationale and thinking mind was doing. Some comparison going on. Yeah. What I hear, what your mind is doing is, it's almost like it's comparing itself to others in the room. And then you're sabotaging yourself. You're letting that voice win in a way. And remember, I said, guys, that voice is the one that we hear the most. And how we talk to ourselves, that inner narrative is so important. I want you to almost imagine as if for a moment, the voice is like, the image I'm getting right now is a horse. Yeah. The motherfucker is a horse. Let's just say it for now. And I want you guys to get on top of the horse and you decide if it goes left and right, so that it doesn't control you and run your life. That's just a metaphorically speaking. Yeah. Otherwise it will constantly do the comparison. But it was good. Thank you for saying, Alessandro. And of course, I'm happy to go further down that rabbit hole with you as to where that comes from for you. And but just to watch the comparison part in you. And I'll take one more because I'm aware of the time. Definitely don't want to encourage anyone to dwell in the pain. And I hope everybody understands that word dwell, meaning you end up getting, you know, the pain becomes all encompassing and enveloping you. But rather to recognize it and say, oh, fuck, that hurts. My God, what I do to myself is, and just to feel that. And it might just be a few moments. Yeah. So this is really good that you mentioned it, Michael, because the value in it is to, when we, self-acknowledgement is really important because we push ourselves aside so much. And to acknowledge your pain and really, and even to feel it and go, oh yeah, that sucks, fuck. But it might just be a moment of feeling it. Yeah. And maybe, let's say, I'm trying to come up with a pain of, you know, I'm a pleaser. I have that in me, by the way. And then when I feel it and that pain of where that comes from, then I go, oh, fuck, that hurts. You know, and I can, of course, we can go into the analytical mind of every story of what mom and dad did, but rather than just to feel it, and then what is it I need right now? The resource that will help me so that I don't collapse in that, in myself. Yeah. Instead of me coming to you and saying, can you hold me and elevate me and lift me up, you know, because then I'll feel better if you love me, the bits that I can't love about myself. Yeah. So that's why the acknowledging the pain, maybe even spending some time with it, and then being able to hold myself in it with just very simple stuff. Yeah. That self-soothing, resourcing, connecting with the body, with connecting. Anytime we drop from the head down into the heart and into the body, we take it from this sort of over analyzing, overthinking, and then we go into overwhelm. Yeah. And that becomes anxious and fearful and disconnect. And when we bring into a feeling, and then we can connect with our bodies, we become more present and able to hold ourselves. Yeah. And the feelings, what else is in the feelings is also compassion and love, unconditional love, and forgiveness. I'm so sorry, Rupda. It's like to be able to forgive myself for the things I didn't do, or the things that I think I should have done. What else lives in the heart is courage, that inner strength. So the heart has so many beautiful qualities that we also need. So dropping down from here to here and here is, for me, has been a massive doorway into settling this part. Thank you, Beauty. Nice to see you. Somebody's asking about the workshop in Berlin. We have one in Berlin on self-worthy. I don't know who's in Europe. Forgive me, because I'm in Australia right now, but I'm coming to Europe to do the self-worthy. I don't remember the dates. First weekend of, I think, of June. I would love to see some of you guys come. The self-worthy is a great, somatic experience of, stepping into this work, and really we dig in, and it's quite passionate work. So if you're curious to know more about, this particular topic, which is, of course, touches us all around our feeling good enough, then please join us. Yeah. I think all the details are on the website. I want to say everything's on the rupda.com website. Yeah. She's giving me a yes. Okay, great. Thank you for asking, whoever asked that message. All right. Wow. Beauties. So nice to see you all. I send you a big warm embrace from Australia, a koala hug, as we say. And hopefully I get to see some of you guys and play with some of you guys soon. Yeah, please stay in touch and contact. And of course, I'm here if you need anything. Yeah, I'm always here. Thank you, beauties, for watching, for tuning in.